how to color hair and skin, and I'll probably show you the rest of the clothes on Ian here. This is Ian from the Greeting Farm. To start with skin, I start with E00, and I go around the outside edges of the face and underneath the hair, like this. And I kind of flick my marker out just a little bit, kind of down as I go around underneath the hair. This is a very light, kind of peachy beige color. And then I kind of hit the ears. I'm bad about forgetting to do the ears. Okay, so there's my first layer. And then I'll go in with E01, which is Pink Flamingo, and using the brush tip, I will go around and add a little bit of shadow underneath the hair. Still flicking. Lots of people use tiny circles. I'm a real big fan of this sort of flicking technique. Alright, then I'll go back to my E000, and I'm going to kind of continue flicking, go back over that and blend that out. Alright, next thing, I'm going to go through and I'm going to finish filling in the rest of his face, still with the E000, and I'll blend or flick up from the bottom. This gives kind of a nice blend into the middle of the face. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'll go back in again with my E01 and put another layer, smaller this time, of shadow underneath the hair. And I'll put a little bit, since he's a boy, he doesn't have too much cheek blush, but I'll put a little there down here at the bottom just to kind of give him some color so it doesn't look pale. Okay. But along the hair, I'm going to leave that alone. I'm not going to blend it out. But on the cheeks, I'm going to take my E000 and start blending that out again. And I'll flick kind of in a star shape from the center out. So it gives like a nice faded blush. Then to do one last bit of shading, I'm going to take my E11 and I'm going to go back in and add just a little bit more shadow underneath the hair. Okay. And then very last, I'm going to take my BV00, which is the mauve shadow. And I love this color because it makes such a great shadow, like a real shadow color for skin and for clothes and for around the characters. And I'm just going to put a teeny tiny bit underneath the hair just to kind of really pop that just a little bit. And I'm just doing it in the really deep recesses of the hair right here. Okay? And I don't really blend that much. I just kind of leave it. Since the ink before it's still wet, it blends out on this on its own. Okay, so there's Ian's face, or his skin all colored in. I will take the E01 and kind of go back into his ears. Just a little. Just to kind of give a little shadow there. And for his hands, take the E000 and just kind of color that in. Alright, now for his hair, I'm going to do a light brown hair color. And for that, I'm going to use E31, E33, E15, E37, and just a tiny bit of E49. I'm going to start by coloring all of his hair in with E31. And when I color hair, I flick with the E31 the same way that I would if I was flicking the lines in. So it all sort of flows together. And I brush this all the way down. My marker's drying out. I need to get a new one. You can hear it. I'm sad this is my favorite, so I'm going to have to order some refills. And this is going to make a nice light, sort of sandy blonde color. Okay, so that color's done. Then I'm going to take my E33 and up along the root line, in the same motion I was doing with the first color, I'm going to real lightly flick to make the hair. And you want to flick out from the center, so each curve is going to go this way, and it's going to get gradually less as you go to the middle. It'll be kind of straight in the middle, and then it's going to start curving back this way on the other side. I need to turn my paper here just a little bit so I can do this. And these strokes are going to be the longest of all the colors because this is the lightest. Alright, when I have that color the way that I like it, I'm going to kind of go into the tips of the hair, and I'm going to flick upward. Sometimes I'll turn him upside down, and it's a little more comfortable to do it this way, to pull the pen toward you. Okay, and on the bottom part there, it's not quite as thin as it is on the top. I probably will go back in later and thin those out just a little bit. For right now, I'm going to leave it because that shadow is a little bit more abrupt on the bangs. Then I'm going to take my E15 and go around again. This time the strokes are a little bit shorter. And it's okay to leave some of that lighter showing through because that's what gives it the natural shadow look, or the natural kind of hair look. Alright, next will be my E37. Again, shorter, even shorter strokes this time. And not nearly as many. Because it's fanning out just a little bit less. And this time I will probably just do a tiny bit along sideburns and just like the very tips of this hair. I have a much harder time flicking upward than I do looking downward. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my E33 and kind of go over it one more time. That kind of helps blend it out just a little. Gives me an opportunity to blend in some of those darker colors so they're a little smoother and a little bit less abrupt. You still want the lines to show, but you don't want it to be really abrupt. Now I'm going to go back to my E31, which hopefully will work, and sort of blend out these tips from the bottom up. Make this blend in a little bit more. Okay. Now, last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my E49, and this I reserved just for the crown, and I'm going to put some really short, tiny roots into his hair here. Just a little bit to give it a little bit more depth. And just a tiny bit along the sideburn here to give that a little bit more dimension right around the side of his head. And there's hair. Usually the bangs are a little neater when I can turn my paper and flick it downward, but since I'm demonstrating, I decided not to do that so much today. For his